Hi, Bobby Sanabria here for Jazz at Lincoln Center. If you've been following this video series, I started off showing you some of the basic techniques that you need to know to learn how to play the conga drums, a little bit of the history of the drums, their relationship to their roots in Western Central Africa, and of course their evolution on the island of Cuba. So we started with one drum, and I started showing you the basic tumbao on one drum and how you can use one drum to outline the clave direction. Now I'm going to use two drums and show you how you can outline the clave direction with two drums. And the person that we really have to thank for that is the great Cándido Camero, because before him, people just used to play one drum in a band situation. And in terms of adapting this drum to a band, we have to thank the great Arsenio Rodriguez, the blind virtuoso on the tres from Matanzas, Cuba. He was the first to really introduce the conga drum or the tumbadora into the band format in his conjunto, two trumpet band. The dialogue and the firmament of between the conga drum and the bongo, well, their fate was sealed with that marriage when Arsenio was the first to adapt this drum and make it a permanent part of his band. There were other groups experimenting before him in an attempt to utilize the conga drum in a dance band context, but they really never pursued it other than using it as a novelty. Arsenio Rodriguez really pursued it, and the world hasn't been the same since. Imagine today a salsa orchestra without a conga drum. So along comes Cándido Camero, who's a great virtuoso not only of the conga drums and the bongo, but he's also a bass player, and he's also a tres player, the mandolin instrument of Cuba that Arsenio played, a guitar that has 3 sets of double strings. Well, Cándido comes along and he says, well, originally, when you would see in the rumba tradition, this beautiful tradition of drumming, voice, and dance, when you see a whole choir of the drums, there's one drummer playing one drum, another one playing another one acting as the soloist. Then you have accessory things, instruments like the guagua or cascara being played on a small shoebox with 2 spoons. Of course, you have the clave being tapped out by someone, vocals. But he comes along, he says, wow, maybe I can develop a way of playing some of the parts all by myself simultaneously. And he does that with the basic tumbao in terms of utilizing the basic tumbao and expanding upon it in a dance band format. So with this other drum, we have a tumbadora here, and we have a conga here. And this is what normally a conga player would utilize in a salsa orchestra. They wouldn't use the quinto, they would use the conga and the tumbadora, the 2 lower drums. Some players like the great Eladio Perez, Ray Barreto amongst them also, who are Eladio from Puerto Rico, played many years with Eddie Palmieri. Ray Barreto, great band leader, started his career with Jose Curbelo and many other great bands, and then went on to the Tito Puente Orchestra and then became a band leader himself in the early 60s. And he's a National Endowment of the Arts jazz master, may he rest in peace. They would utilize 2 tumbadoras to get a big, huge, fat sound when they would play tumbas. But the normal size drums that we would use to play in a salsa orchestra are the conga and the tumbadora. But don't be surprised if you see somebody playing on a gig with 2 tumbadoras. I've done it myself. It gets a really big, fat sound within the context of the orchestra. You got to work a little harder, but that's what it's all about, man. You got to work it. So Cándido comes along, and instead of just doing this, playing neutrally or aligning with the clave like I showed you before in video 1, like this, I'll start in 2-3 direction. 1, 2, 3, 4. What would happen if I did this? You could utilize a second drum and do this. 1, 2, 3, 4. That would be if the direction was 2, 3. I'll do it now if the direction was 3, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. So as you can hear and you can see, the rhythm is strengthened. And now we have a melody going on, not just on one drum, but on two drums. Of course, that's going to force the bass player to play maybe a little bit differently, a little bit more creatively, etc. And this is where we get the introduction of the cowbell by the bongocero in the section of a tune in the world of salsa that we call the montuno. The montuno in a song in the world of salsa is a vamp where the vocalist, the sonero, if it's a male, or sonera, if it's a female, gets to improvise over this vamp and show their virtuosity or lack thereof of clave, because they have to improvise in clave. They have to create melodies, okay? So all of the rhythms have to align somehow with the clave, but they also have to create spontaneous rhythmic poetry at the same time. So it's a very highly defined art form, and not many people can do it well. A true sonero will play the claves in a salsa orchestra. It's a tradition that was always part and parcel of Cuban music. But today, most singers, they just grab the mic and go out front and sing. But in the old days, you had to show your clave consciousness and actually play clave and sing. There's still some that can do it. Jorge Maldonado here in New York City, Herman Olivera, Frankie Vasquez are three great soneros who happen to be of Puerto Rican descent, but have mastered the art of the Cuban song and the rumba extremely well and can do that. I myself can do it all, you know, although I'm not a vocalist, I do it with my foot, I can do it with my hands, tapping a clave, etc. And any person worth their salt should be able to do it in terms of this tradition, sing and play clave at the same time, as well as play the other auxiliary instruments like the güiro and the maracas, which I'll get into sometime later on.